Q.3 Merits and Demerits of the Reformatory Theory of Punishment. 1. Conceptual Introduction. The reformatory theory of punishment represents a humane and progressive approach to criminal justice, emphasizing the transformation of the offender rather than retribution or deterrence. Unlike retributive theory, which seeks vengeance, or deterrent theory, which aims to instill fear, the reformatory theory believes that crime is often a product of adverse social conditions, ignorance, or moral weakness. Its central idea is that the offender should be corrected through moral, psychological, and vocational rehabilitation, so that he or she can re-enter society as a responsible citizen. This theory finds philosophical roots in humanism and utilitarianism as developed by thinkers such as Jeremy Bentham, Cesare Beccaria, and later reformers like John Howard and Elizabeth Fry. 2. Fundamental Principle. The guiding principle of the reformatory theory is that the aim of punishment should be to change the character and attitude of the offender, not to inflict suffering. The theory rests on the assumption that no one is born a criminal, and that criminal tendencies arise from environmental, psychological, or social causes that can be corrected through education, discipline, and moral training. Thus, punishment becomes a means of moral and social healing rather than vengeance. I. Merits of the reformatory theory. 3. Humanitarian and moral approach. The most significant merit of this theory is its humanitarian outlook. It treats the offender as a human being capable of reform, not as an irredeemable outcast. This approach aligns with modern human rights principles that reject cruelty and degradation in penal systems. For example, the shift from corporal punishment to rehabilitation programs in modern prisons reflects the influence of this humane philosophy. 4. Reduction of recidivism. By focusing on moral and psychological rehabilitation, this theory seeks to prevent the offender from repeating crimes. When individuals are educated, counseled, or trained in prison, they gain both skills and self-worth that enable them to reintegrate successfully into society. For instance, Scandinavian prison systems, especially in Norway, have adopted reformative models emphasizing education, therapy, and reintegration, resulting in some of the lowest reoffending rates in the world. 5. Social reintegration and rehabilitation. Reformation aims at social reintegration rather than permanent exclusion. It prepares the offender to become a productive member of society by teaching skills, offering counseling, and nurturing self-control. In India, the Juvenile Justice Act embodies this principle by focusing on correction rather than punishment for young offenders, assuming that youth is reformable with proper guidance and support. 6. Focus on causes of crime. Unlike retributive or deterrent theories that address symptoms, the reformatory theory addresses the causes. It recognizes that crime may arise from poverty, lack of education, mental illness, or addiction. Through rehabilitation programs, such as psychological therapy, vocational training, and addiction treatment, this approach seeks to eliminate the root causes of criminality, creating safer and more stable communities in the long run. 7. Compatibility with modern criminology. Contemporary criminology views crime as a social and psychological phenomenon rather than a purely moral fault. The reformatory theory aligns with this modern understanding as it emphasizes rehabilitation over punishment. For example, probation and parole systems, community service, and open prisons all reflect reformative principles derived from criminological research emphasizing behavioral change and social adaptation. 8. Long-term social benefit. A reformed criminal, once rehabilitated, ceases to be a burden on society and may even contribute positively. By investing in reform, the state ensures long-term peace and reduces the financial and social costs of reincarceration. This long-term benefit justifies the short-term investment in educational and psychological correctional programs. 2. Demerits of the reformatory theory. 9. Risk of leniency and ineffectiveness. One major criticism is that excessive emphasis on reform can make punishment too lenient, weakening deterrence. Offenders may not fear legal consequences if they perceive the system as forgiving or indulgent. In cases of serious crimes like murder or terrorism, mere reformative approaches may fail to deliver justice, causing public resentment and loss of faith in the justice system. 10. Unsuitability for habitual or hardened criminals. This theory assumes that all offenders are capable of moral change, but in practice, some individuals exhibit deeply ingrained criminal tendencies or psychopathic traits that resist reform. For example, habitual offenders or organized criminals may exploit reformative opportunities without genuine change, posing continued threats to society. 11. Difficulty in assessing genuine reform. It is often challenging to measure whether an offender is truly reformed or simply pretending to secure release. Psychological assessment tools are not foolproof, and premature release of seemingly reformed offenders has sometimes led to serious crimes, shaking public confidence in reform-based sentencing. 12. High cost and administrative challenges. Reformation requires specialized staff, counselors, psychologists, educational programs, and well-managed correctional facilities. Many developing countries lack such resources, leading to ineffective implementation. Where prison conditions are poor, reformative ideals remain largely theoretical. For instance, overcrowded and underfunded prisons in many regions fail to provide even basic welfare, let alone meaningful rehabilitation. 13. Potential neglect of justice to victims. Critics argue that excessive focus on the offender's reform may ignore the pain and suffering of victims. Victims may feel that justice is incomplete if the offender receives sympathy rather than proportionate punishment. Thus, the moral balance between offender reformation and victim satisfaction becomes a key ethical challenge for reformative justice. 14. Slow process and limited deterrence. Reformation takes time and commitment, which may not serve the immediate needs of justice. Moreover, it fails to deter potential offenders effectively, since it does not evoke fear of punishment. Consequently, societies dealing with rising violent crimes may find reformative measures inadequate in maintaining public order. 15. Summary for quick understanding. The reformatory theory of punishment emphasizes changing the offender's mindset through education, moral guidance, and social rehabilitation rather than inflicting pain. Its merits lie in its humane outlook, reduction of recidivism, and social reintegration, while its demerits include potential leniency, high cost, and limited deterrence. It represents a forward-looking approach suited for minor and first-time offenders but may be insufficient for dealing with hardened criminals or heinous crimes. 16. Quick revision notes. Reformatory theory is equal to transform the offender, not torment him. Merits: humane, preventive, rehabilitative, and socially constructive. Demerits: costly, lenient, hard to measure reform, ineffective for habitual criminals. Modern application: probation, parole, open prisons, and juvenile reform institutions. 17 one-line questions and answers for revision. 1. What is the main aim of the reformatory theory? To reform and rehabilitate the offender. 2. Who inspired this theory's humanitarian approach? Jeremy Bentham and John Howard. 3. How does it differ from retributive punishment? It focuses on moral correction, not revenge. 4. What modern systems reflect this theory? Probation, parole, and juvenile homes. 5. What is its major advantage? Reduction of reoffending through moral and vocational training. 6. What is its key weakness? Ineffectiveness against hardened criminals. 7. What kind of offenders benefit most from it? First-time or young offenders. 8. Why is it considered humane? Because it views crime as reformable behavior, not innate evil. 9. What risk arises from excessive leniency? Loss of deterrence and public trust. 10. Why is implementation difficult in developing countries? Due to lack of resources and overcrowded prisons. 18. Final connection. The reformatory theory bridges the gap between justice and compassion, seeking to cure the disease of criminality rather than punish its symptoms. Its spirit is echoed in modern criminal jurisprudence, which increasingly favors rehabilitation over retribution. Yet, its practical success depends on balancing moral reform with social protection. In essence, reformation must not replace justice, but complete it, transforming punishment into a pathway toward human redemption and societal harmony. Q.4 The social contract theory of political obligation.